Hey, Drew, guess what?
What?
We're in an advertisement.
Well, that is neat.
Anchor has asked us to help advertise the platform we use for this very podcast.
Using Anchor has made it really easy for us to distribute our podcast across almost every streaming service and has helped us grow to the point we're at now.
Yeah, thanks, Anchor. You're the best.
If you have any questions about using Anchor, please reach out to us. We'd love to share our personal experience with you and help you get started doing your own podcast.
All right, let's start the show. Brother Pele is in the back. Sweet Zena's in the front, cruising down the freeway in the hot, hot sun. Suddenly, red blue lights flash us from behind. Loud voice booming, please step out from the line. Pele preach words of comfort. Zena just hides her eyes. Police taps his shades. Is that a Chevy 69? How bizarre. Welcome to the Good Bottle Podcast. Drew, I hope that was short enough for you.
It was perfect, and what was really impressive is how much you fought the urge to sing and or rap that.
That's a fact.
So that was really, really impressive.
That lyric comes to us per request of one of our listeners. So I just need to give a shout out to B. Lee. I love you. That was brilliant.
One of our consistent listeners, which is great.
That's right.
He has his own digital thing going now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he does a virtual happy hour at Father Patty's in Woodland, California, every Wednesday now.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch him grow as like a presenter over that time frame. Because first, when the whole lockdown started, they started that. Everybody was in an awkward position, and Brian knows his stuff, but not necessarily being in front of a camera, and stuff like that. But as you saw, as time went on, if you tune in now, you're just kind of like, oh, he's really comfortable and he's good. And he's that charismatic person that you're used to seeing normally, and now he's able to convey that through video. So it's been kind of fun to watch him grow in that way.
Well, there you go, B. You've got some kudos coming from the master Drew.
Yeah, so. I've already started a Facebook fan page. I'll invite you. So that's where I'm at with it.
That's perfect.
What are you drinking, bud?
Oh man, I am drinking Watts Winery, the Fog Valley Vineyard Red Blend, their Juneteenth release. It is quite yummy, and it is a blend of Cab and Zin, and I'm not exactly sure what else, but it's definitely Cab and Zin.
Those are two solid ones to go with.
And they're out of Lodi, and Lodi does both Cab and Zin very well.
Agreed.
What are you drinking on?
I am, because it's so effing hot right now, I am starting to transition into my easy summer drinks. And so I'm just doing a gin and soda. And I am using the Gun Club Gin, which is from Sun Liquor, which is up in Seattle. And this is a cool little brand that we actually distribute. It's a pot still gin. This one comes in at 100 proof as well, which I really like, because you don't need a whole lot to get where you need to go. And it's got a really cool bottle too. I just really dig this company, and they just do some cool stuff. It basically started as a situation of, hey, we started making our own syrups, and then we started making our own bitters, and why don't we just make our own spirits? And because they started as a bar and then became a little distillery. So just kind of a cool story, fun products. And yeah, like I said, I think their gin is their shining stuff that they really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like, have you ever been to their bar? I enjoyed their bar quite a bit.
No, I still have not been. So
they've got a pretty fantastic cocktail program there. And so it's a cute little aesthetic that's in the space that used to be a neighborhood bar, and I guess it still is a neighborhood bar, but they've kind of zhuzhed it up just a little bit. It's nice.
That's cool. Yeah, so I'll be sipping on lots of those over the next couple months. It's just we're already getting there. We're already getting to that extreme heat, you know.
I know. I was hoping that we would miss some of that. I knew that we wouldn't, and that it always tends to come a little bit late. But I was hoping because, we hit like 102 like 2 weeks ago, and then it dipped back down to 70. And now we're back there again. Yay! It's fucking gross.
The emotional roller coaster continues.
Yeah, I just I could deal with heat, and even today is not so bad. I draw the line at like smelling the ground cook. Like that's kind of it. Like that's when I don't go outside anymore.
Right, because you're just like there's just heat coming from every direction.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. Well, so there's our big time selling point for Sacramento. Move here. It's hot as hell.
Yeah, okay. But that being said, the nights are super sexy when it is really really hot outside with the Delta breeze. I don't know if do you get the Delta breeze in Rockland?
No, we do. Okay. I mean, we still get some cooler nights, which helps, but we definitely don't get the benefit of that quite as much as you guys do in Sacramento.
My house is right off the river. I'm like 4 blocks away from the river. It's lovely. That wind comes down and just pulls all that gross heat out and just leaves you with a super sexy night. It's great. It's a great way to like sit outside, smoke a cigar, drink wine, whiskey, whatever.
Yeah. Or the above.
Or all of them at once.
Yeah. So before we jump into our news stories, which we love just to jump into with our fancy music and everything now, the wine that you had mentioned, you said it was a special release for Juneteenth.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you also pretty much revamped your whole store for that day as well. Could you, for the people who didn't see it, can you talk about what you did and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. I had decided, so the store is, if for those of you who don't know, is in the heart of at least Sacramento, across the street from the Capitol. And so we've been surrounded by protests, for the better part of a month now. And we as a store were fully prepared to lose everything in, going down in flames for the cause. We would have been bummed if we had lost everything, but we half expected it just because everything else around us had been trashed. A lot, stores had been ransacked, tons of glass windows had been crushed, and somehow we survived. But regardless of that, it's brought a lot of attention to the needs of people of color in the United States, and rightfully so. But Juneteenth is Freedom Day. I mean, it's the day where slaves were told that they were free in the South, and we should celebrate that because there is no freedom if even one person is in slavery, is enslaved. That's the word I'm looking for. And I'm a firm believer in that. So Juneteenth has always been a big day for me. Ever since I learned about it in high school. And I'm always surprised when people don't know it. So now that I own my own company, I was able to celebrate it. And I didn't really know the right way to go about it because, I'm a white guy and I didn't want it to come across that, I was being opportunistic. For me, it was really about celebrating the day. And you and I had talked, Drew, leading up to this, that I had been looking for Black-owned spirits, Black-owned wines, and how difficult that was. And it continues to be difficult. And there's a lot of reasons for that, whether it's access to capital, access to permits, and then access to the market. All three of those things are incredibly difficult for anybody, much less if you have societal, what am I trying to say? If you're societally oppressed.
Yeah.
So it continues to be a struggle. It's something that we're definitely still going to work towards and towards developing for the store. But essentially what we did was everything that I could get, I took everything else off the shelves and I put up everything that was Black owned on the shelves. And I knew that the shelves would be bare, all things considered, because I had 3 spirits. It was supposed to be 4, but the 4th, I'm still waiting for it to show up from the distributor. So I'll be excited when it does show up. And we had 3 wines. We had Watts Winery. We had Brown Estate, which is the only Black owned wine in Napa Valley. And we had McBride Sisters out of San Luis Obispo, and we had their Riesling. Unfortunately, I could only get a case of that, so that disappeared real fast.
I got myself a bottle of that, so I'm okay with the situation.
And I mean, it's legit wine. The wine itself was called Black Girl Magic. So what's not to love about that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
We partnered with a company that we already partner with, called Last Supper Society. It's a Black owned company. A chef who's Michelin trained. They had started off their concept by doing pop-ups, but obviously when shelter in place happened, they couldn't do that. So they pivoted to doing virtual cooking classes. So people show up now to our store, pick up their kit for that evening's cooking class, and then go home. And then 7:00 at night, they have their class all together online. And it's a really cool concept. The guys have had great success and they're still growing, which is awesome. So partnering with them, and they helped push it. And I checked with them because I knew that they were going to be there that day, and they were super supportive of the idea as well, which was really kind of the first big win for me, that I was going in the right direction. Was those guys were not just supportive, but they were eager. They loved the idea. So they really helped push from like a PR perspective, the event. And then with the shelves being bare, I brought in some artist homies, some photographers who, Black photographers who've got a great voice. They've got great style. And so they were able to tell their story a little bit too. So it was really just a great way to bring the community together, and which has always been the goal of my store anyway. So it wasn't really anything that crazy other than just focusing on a very specific set of inventory.
Yeah.
But we ended up having the best day of business we've ever had, which is incredibly validating. And, it still is really touching, because it just means that people still give a shit about community, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. I think, when we talked about it initially, I think it's been hard for a lot of white people to kind of find their place in this whole in what's happening right now. And you want to be helpful. You want to, find ways that you can really amplify voices in the best way possible without, pandering or anything like that and coming off as disingenuous. And I think both of us were going back and forth for a couple of days, sending each other links to like, okay, this is Black owned, this is Black owned, whether it was spirits or wine or what the fuck ever, we were just kind of going back and forth on that. And it certainly became illuminating, like how frustrating it was really going to be, and how you're just kind of like, all right, this is something that I've never thought of before. And I clearly need to be a lot more aware of. And ultimately it's going to come down to how it tastes. Right. I think we need to, of course, make the extra effort right now, but like it's got to taste good. And I can say, at least for that Riesling, it's really good. And I also because I think at first we both were like, oh, well, Uncle Nearest, like we know about that, but that was really the only brand that we had heard of. And so it had to grow from that point. But I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more people talk about those brands and explore more of them. I mean, I also picked up a bottle of the Brown Estates, but I just haven't cracked it open yet. So,
Which one did you get? Did you get the Chaos Theory or the Zinfandel?
I got the Zinfandel.
Okay, I still haven't had the Zinfandel. I had the Chaos Theory. Chaos Theory is named because they change it up every year, but it's a signature blend for them. So they change up what goes in it, but they create a blend that speaks to who they are. That's hence Chaos Theory.
That's cool. Yeah, so I got the Zin. So as soon as I do crack that open, I'll be sure to give you the rundown on it. But I'll say this, walking into your store on that day, I mean, it looked great. I think you guys did a really good job on the execution, and to hear that you had such a successful day as well. I mean, it was, that's really cool. I mean, I was also there. I was picking up the Last Supper Society stuff as well. And then you ended up getting more cool stuff after I left, which I'm actually still kind of pissed about, because I definitely would have bought some of the Colin Kaepernick Captain America shirts, because those are awesome.
Yeah, they're great. They're definitely coming back into the store.
So yeah, I think it was a really cool thing, and I'm happy to hear that it was successful, and that it was just, and again, it was successful for a lot of people. It was a really cool collaboration.
Well, I'll say something, and I kind of want to give you props, because you said something that stuck with me and actually has still been like reverberating inside of my head. And it was really important to hear. And I don't know if you meant it to be as impactful as it was, but when we first started talking about it and we were mentioning just how frustrating it all was, you said, well, like, this is partially on you because you've never asked before. And that's 100% correct. Like, and it was totally embarrassing, because I try to be aware. I try to be supportive, and you were 100% correct about that I had never asked. And so much so that when I turned around and I asked all my distributors, they were equally embarrassed, because they're like, this is incredibly sobering for us, because, well, some of them played defense. Some of them were like, well, we almost had one, and then, it just didn't work out. You're like, all right, guy.
Yeah.
But most of them were fairly humble about it and like, yeah, no, this is a point that we need to concentrate on. We need to focus on this, because there is dope booze out there. Right. And that's sort of the point, is just because it's somebody else is making it, that, at least in the case of the United States, is atypical, that owns a brand, doesn't make it not good. Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't also make it great, but like you said, it comes down to the juice. And everything that I brought in, I will say the tequila that I brought in was not something I'm super proud of, and I probably won't reorder. Other than that, everything else was pretty damn delicious and will stay on my shelves, as long as I can continue to get them, and I'm not having any distributor problems.
Right.
Like I'm still having. And that's the issue. Like I reached out to a few people. I reached out to a couple wineries. I reached out to a winery in Oregon that I've heard amazing things about, and they don't have California distribution. And that makes it really difficult, to be able to sell dope shit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, for my own personal growth in this scenario, like I've been a big champion of Mexican spirits over the past few years, and definitely an emphasis on Mexican owned brands and stuff like that. And, I know that I've had an impact in that arena, and I look forward to, finding more cool brands and really diversifying my personal collection. And I think for a long time, I never really considered who was making my booze until I started going down to Mexico and traveling and meeting those people. And that's when I really started to put a lot more stock in it. And now this is just another opportunity to learn and kind of be like, okay, now let's continue to ask questions, not just of agave, but of whiskey, of, vodka, wine. Let's start asking these questions and, really try to start building up these brands regardless of race and who's making it. Just like this, build up more good brands, because there's obviously a lot of good stuff out there that we're not drinking.
Right. Yeah. Like I am particularly excited about my vodka to still come in. And no one else seems to be on the same page as me about being excited about this. And it's fine. I get it. It is Scrapple flavored vodka. You should Google that, because I made Drew Google it, and he said, ew. And then I said, no, you're ew. And he said, well, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. And I said, no, you're probably not.
Yeah.
But
it's like,
I'm incredibly excited for it, because it's one of those things that it's like, this is either going to be dope or it's going to be terrible. And then I'm stuck with 12 bottles of it. But
can I read the description of Wikipedia?
I would love it
guest?
if you did that. Yes.
All right. And so then you can actually tell me if I'm wrong or not. So when I Googled it, this is the first thing that pops up. So Scrapple, also known by the Pennsylvania Dutch name Panhaas or Pan Rabbit. Am I on the right track?
Yep.
Oh, fuck. Here we go. Is traditionally a mush of pork scraps and trimmings combined with cornmeal and wheat flour, often buckwheat flour, and spices. The mush is formed into a semi-solid congee loaf, and then slices of the scrapple are then pan-fried before serving.
Yeah. It's so good.
And someone was like, you know what we need to do? Infuse vodka with it.
That's right. And you knowing me, how could I not buy that?
I mean, I guess.
Like, how do you know that and then see that that's a thing, that someone invested money into doing that, and not go, I gotta know. I have to know if this is good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm of the mindset that I would love to try it. But
well, sure, and you get the benefit of me purchasing it in order to try it. I don't have that benefit. I have to buy it in order to try it. So,
yeah,
a case it is.
Well, so yeah, when that comes in, there you go. That's just great.
Yeah, it's also it's painted stave out of Delaware, so I'll give them a little bit of love on that. I don't know if it's good or not.
Off the hoof vodka?
Off the hoof. Yep.
I'll say so. I just Googled that, and I will say, for the logo and the packaging alone, it might be worth the purchase.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
It's
good to know that you're just as twisted as I am.
Yeah.
And that our priorities are set in very similar arenas.
Well, I mean, when it comes to vodka, I mean, come on. Like, you got to do something to get my interest. And this has like a sleeveless pig with a heart tattoo or something. What is that? Anyways, it looks kind of like a biker pig, and they are definitely trying to convey some type of message here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it. We'll see how that turns out.
I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. So on to the news.
On to the news.
So our first story is actually coming back to like almost full circle for us. When we first started this podcast, it was back in like December of last year, so 2019. And the only thing that anybody was talking about at that time was the tariffs, and the tariffs that the Trump administration was going to put onto France and Scotland, and then vice versa. Fortunately, we avoided the 100% tariffs, but we did see a slight increase.
We saw 25%.
Yeah. And so now they're kind of going back to the negotiating table, and in the month of July, which is next month, and they have, unfortunately, more things have come up within this trade dispute, whereas before it was mostly just a dispute over Airbus and different taxes on that, and that was the big controversy between the US and the UK, in particular the European Union. And now in addition to all the Airbus controversy, you now have the digital services tax, which is something that both France and Italy imposed onto companies like Google and Facebook. And so basically it's turned into this pissing match between the Trump administration and now and then the EU. And it could get really, really ugly. This has already had quite a bit of ramifications for smaller distillers in the US. It's definitely hit consumers' pocketbooks with the increase to single malts across Scotland, and then of course wineries are really feeling it too. One of our mutual friends, her company, of course, LBV Imports with Kelly Babineau, she's also really felt it too. So there has been, we have covered this before, but this is kind of where we're at now. And you do have an opportunity to go onto the U.S. Trade Representative's website, and you can submit your comments towards them and what you think that they should do. So I would encourage people to do that before July 15th. But Chris, do you have any additional thoughts on the tariff talk?
Yeah, I'm curious if the administration is so tough on this because they're insulted that Europe would make these companies pay taxes, but we won't.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got. I like I want to be wittier than that, but I don't know. Like, we shouldn't be offended by these companies being taxed.
That's how I mean, but I think it's I think it's more so because Trump takes everything so personally. He's like, they're coming after me.
I mean, with shelter in place and whatnot, we've been on an economic roller coaster, and shelter in place COVID has not helped his numbers at all. And so now he's just trying to play the strong man. I think it's fairly obvious for everyone who's been watching this entire time that that's still what's happening. Yeah. And I don't really know what else to say other than please don't. Well, just please don't put 100% tax on things, because that's real dumb.
Yeah. I mean, and again, when you do get into these pissing matches, it's not really any of them that are going to suffer. It's going to be all the employees that can then get put out of work because prices are going to increase so significantly. So do what you can. Visit the U.S. Trade Representative website. Submit your comments and your feelings towards the potential hikes. I mean, you just never know what's going to resonate. And then if they have this outpouring of support, or against it, I mean, they do take that into consideration. That was a huge part of what happened in January, was how many people came forward and spoke and submitted comments.
Yeah, your voice definitely matters. Yeah, but especially emails, especially phone calls. Emails are easily disregarded, but blowing up someone's phone to the point where they can't take other phone messages definitely has an impact. So I know that because I talked to local politicians who come into my store who say that they're ignoring phone calls as they're shopping. So, I know that it works.
There's a little how the sausage gets made in Sacramento. Good Lord. That's just great. Okay, moving on. But sticking with our fantastic government. There is currently a bipartisan bill that's being worked on right now that will be $120 billion stimulus package that will be focused solely on restaurants and bars, and it's currently being put together right now. Some of the details with it: if your establishment gross revenue is less than 1.5 million or less, you will be eligible for this loan, as opposed to the PPP, which was heavily skewed towards payroll. This one you can use for whatever, mortgage, rent, more overhead costs. Again, you can use it for payroll, but I do know in my conversations with a lot of people, one of the big issues with the PPP loan was that it wasn't necessarily having to pay their employees that was, freaking them out. It was the fact that they had all these bills due, like rent, electricity, and their vendors as well. That was what was going to sink them. So it's getting a lot of support. The Restaurant Association is behind it as well. Like I said, this is a bipartisan bill, so there's a better chance that it will pass. Right now, it looks pretty straightforward, but I'm sure as it gets closer to an actual vote, they'll put all kinds of stupid shit in it, to get agendas taken care of. But I don't know. What did you see when you were reading the article?
Well, I'm with you in that it's a small glimmer of hope, and I was surprised because this definitely came from a group that I didn't expect to see something this actionable come from. I think it's important for people to understand who are not in the industry or maybe in the industry but don't have an idea of sort of how numbers run. Restaurants when they open up every day start off in the red. Everything right. They're in debt, so right off the bat you're already in debt, and so you have to sell a certain amount just to get to your bottom line. and then you have to sell even more to maybe make a profit. Maybe, right? The typical restaurant makes between 0 to 15% profit in its lifetime. So just so people understand that. So when restaurateurs are concerned about paying their suppliers and paying for the groceries, the stuff that they need to cook those meals, so they can continue to get those deliveries from distributors, it's a real problem, much less than on top of that, having to pay their mortgage, having to pay their lease, which is oftentimes, I guess it depends on your, on your neighborhood, on your address. But I'll tell you, here in Sacramento, the typical restaurant will pay about $1 a square foot for their lease, right? And that's usually negotiable. So I think people need to understand that when they walk into a place and they say, okay, how much does it cost to run it? How much does it cost just to exist in the space? So this money is a big deal. We'll see if it actually comes out too, and we'll see how much good it does. I know we received a little bit of the first PPP to help pay for our 2 employees. So it wasn't much, and it should have been more, but me and my partner don't take a paycheck, so we couldn't include ourselves in that because we weren't there yet in the course of opening a business. So that sucked. So that means that we just have to delay that even more.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I hope that this bill comes out pretty clean cut, and I think there's been a lot of talk over the past few months from multiple mediums, talking about the razor thin margins of restaurants, and some of these loans really did do a lot of good for people in different situations, but when it comes to restaurants, the labor obviously is a huge part of it. And I know I'm having conversations now with people who have decided not to reopen yet, is that they just simply can't afford to pay anybody at the current minimum wage that exists in California, as well as, everything else that goes into running a restaurant. I mean, their thought process is hey, I finally just paid off my debt. I'm not going to go back into debt to make this happen. So it's it's a bummer that people are feeling that way. And, I know right now it just doesn't seem like there's a path to success, but hopefully if something like this bill does get passed, it'll give people a little bit more breathing room, knowing that they can kind of spread those funds out and take care of some bills that they maybe weren't able to before.
Yeah. And I think if you're outside of the bubble of this industry, or even if you're stuck inside the bubble, I have a few facts here that I think will contextualize the arguments. It's important to keep in mind when we're talking about restaurants, it's not just like, oh, this is, something that just happens to be nice, but it wouldn't really matter if it went away, in the United States, the restaurants employ 15.6 million workers. That is 10% of the complete workforce. They contribute $863 billion to the GDP. On top of that, an additional $24 billion gets contributed to the national GDP from bars and nightclubs, and that doesn't even include the supply chain impact. We're not talking about we're not talking about distributors. We're not talking about truck drivers. We're not talking about farmers. We're not talking about distillers. That's simply just the point of business. 70% of all U.S. restaurants are single unit operated. So that means it's most of them, 70% are mom and pop shops. Table service restaurants add more than $263 billion to the GDP. The cost of replacing an employee breaks down to an average of $5,684 for replacing an employee. That's including training, bringing them on, insurance, everything like that. And that's according to HubSpot. So when we're talking about why funding restaurants matters, it's because it's a significant part of the national food chain, right? And the economic platform that restaurants serve, both culturally and for our bottom line as a nation, is huge. I mean, it's substantial. It's nothing to be scoffed at. But so when we talk about tariffs on wine and we talk about bailing out restaurants, this is why. I mean, it's 10% of the national workforce. And I've seen certain figures that suggest that 50% of that workforce isn't going back to work. They're not going to be able to. Things are going to be closed. So that's 5% of the national workforce that have a skill that will not be rehired. That's a lot of people. That's 7 million people. We freak out when a single car plant closes and the amount of people that go out of work there, or a coal mine that closes, right? We're talking 7 million people. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate reality that a lot of people have not accepted yet, that they're not going to be returning to this industry, and it sucks. I don't want people to to have to go through that and feel that, but it's definitely the reality. I mean, and eventually the industry is going to bounce back hopefully in a different way, in a more sustainable way. And maybe this bill ends up being kind of the bridge to that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like all the numbers are there. Like this has been such a bigger, I don't think any industry has been hit harder than ours, so I'm looking forward to this getting done. But
yeah,
so now
I agree with you. I really hope that like when we were talking with Rick Dobbs, I hope that what comes out of this is something that's more sustainable and less culturally broken. I hope that a lot of these things get fixed. We're at a precipice and turning point in our country now that I hope that a lot of things get shaken out in the wash.
Yeah, that's actually something that Andrew Zimmer has been talking a lot about through his social media channels. I don't know if you've caught any of that, but
I have.
It's him and Tom Colicolo as well, David Chang. It's been cool to see like the big kind of voices, talk about this stuff and get it out there. And, hopefully, it's not going to fall on deaf ears, and we can actually, because we're basically starting from the ashes. So we can rebuild this industry in a better way. And, unfortunately, a lot of people are kind of going to get left behind initially, but hopefully we can make it better. So things like this won't be as susceptible to, a crisis like this in the future.
Yeah, I mean, even if we just look at basic viruses that have threatened the industry throughout history. I mean, the biggest one is phylloxera, right? I mean, that's the one everybody knows. You know, phylloxera wiped out grapes across multiple nations. It's one of the reasons why cognac is still revered as as a prestige item rather than brandy just being an everyday sipper. You know, that it was such a huge part of our culture, and then phylloxera happened, became super expensive, right?
Yeah.
We talk about the potential of that happening with agave, right? And why it's important to not just clone and monoculture entire crops. I think from a cultural standpoint, we need to take the same lessons and know that we need to make ourselves a little bit more sturdy, so that way we don't become susceptible the same way.
Yeah, there was a few months back, David Chang's restaurant group. He closed some of his restaurants, and he has quite a bit. So I mean, he's going to be fine. But he was talking about it after, and one of the things that he said that has really stuck with me over the past few months was he's all, we can never be this vulnerable again. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, it's so simple, but so clear. And we need to do what we can to avoid that. Yeah. All right. So now into our final topic today, and a very well-researched part of it. And this all has to do with Walmart suing the state of Texas. And what they want to do is they want to start selling spirits at their stores. Just you guys know, Texas is a state-controlled liquor system. So basically what that means is that every bottle of liquor, spirits, wine, everything has to be bought through a state-designated store. So even if like here in California, you can go to Total Wine, and then you can go to your local liquor store, and right now you can actually go to restaurants and buy bottles. And then restaurants and these stores, what they do is they work through a distributor. Well, in this situation in Texas, they all have to go to state-ran liquor stores, and it's a really tedious process, but it's one of the ways that they keep Texas people employed, or however they like to look at it. So in doing your research, Chris, what did you find out about this situation?
Well, so it's not a new situation at all. Like this has been happening since Prohibition, and there are many states that do this. I know Trader Joe's got into the same fight with Ohio. They lost. State of Washington just went, I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago, switched over from being a control state. I know that in Pennsylvania, a lot of the store owners are trying to lobby to be a privately run state rather than a control state. So this is not a news story. What makes this fascinating, though, is that about a year ago, there was a court case that went up to the Sixth Circuit appellate court, and the court case was Tennessee Wine and Spirits Association v. Thomas. And essentially what was ruled on was that the forgive me, I'm looking at my notes here. What got ruled on was that the Tennessee had tried to implement very much the same way as Texas, that in order to obtain an alcohol permit, a liquor license, you had to be a resident for 10 years. And then in order to resubmit and get that license again, the same license that you already had, you had to maintain that residency for the entire time for 10 years as well. And so essentially the findings in Tennessee Wine and Spirits Association v. Thomas was that it came apart in what is called a forgive me, I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called, the Dormant Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Essentially what that means is that no state can create a law that prohibits commerce that the federal government has already ruled to be permissible. The Supremacy Clause is without question cannot be violated. Supremacy Clause states that the U.S. federal government remains supreme. So whatever their laws are the law of the land. Now there's small maneuverability that you can have in terms of states' rights within that. But the finding that Tennessee, the Wine and Spirits Association v. Thomas negated that, and it's pretty much the same law that Wal-Mart is suggesting that Texas has had. Texas has had has had 25 years of this law, in which I think they say like 94% of Texas owned liquor permits are owned by Texans, which is ostensibly a really great thing. I mean, I'm certainly never on the side of Walmart, but them taking this to the U.S. Supreme Court has wide-ranging connotations. I mean, who knows what the Supreme Court's going to say, and not just how they rule in terms of Texas, but when that comes down in terms of Texas, does that mean that California is going to have to change its laws? Does that mean Pennsylvania will have to change their laws? That precedent being sent is huge. I will say, though, taking a closer look at Texas, because I've talked to multiple suppliers over the years who just banged their head against the wall about Texas specifically. And it's like, from what I've heard, is that they have pretty much like a fourth tier in dealing with Texas. They have 254 counties. Over 50 of them are dry counties. There is one town in Texas that is in both counties. One of them is a dry county and one of them is not. So in certain parts of the town you can drink, and other parts you can't. Let's see. On Sunday, you're not allowed to sell booze that's over 17% alcohol. In order to sell alcohol, it's a county by county basis. So every single county needs to have a permit in order to deliver alcohol. A lot of those are called package stores. I think for the East Coast, a lot of people will know what a package store is. But the Supreme Court's supposed to rule on this on July 13th, so it's right around the corner. So we'll definitely keep you updated. This is a pretty huge one, and I'm kind of excited to see what the Supreme Court rules on this.
Again, and to your point, there's a lot of ramifications that I think this lawsuit can have, and one of them is, and I think this is going to be a stretch, but this could be that dismantling of like these state-ran liquor stores, because I mean they're not convenient for anybody to work with, and strictly from an aesthetic point of view, like if you go to a Texas bar, like you just see all these awful like government stamps on every single bottle. So it completely ruins the aesthetic of your bar. And I don't think they put enough stock in that. Like I look at your back bar and I'm like, looks like you just bought that. And it's literally because they probably did. And that's a totally trivial and petty thing. And I realize that, but it really bothers me in the times that I've been in Texas and I've looked at their back bars and I'm like, those
government stamps are just way too big.
I don't think it's trivial at all. I think it's really perceptive, because as we know, when it comes to building out the aesthetic of a bar, it's an emotional thing. It has huge implications based on huge implications about what people are willing to spend in a space. Now, maybe if you're a Texan, you probably get numb to something like that over the course of time, But if you are a tourist in Texas, that is something as simple as that could probably turn you off to spending, $100 as opposed to $300, and you multiply that over however many tourists hit up Dallas and Austin, or, go down for spring break. I mean, that's substantial.
Yeah. And I mean, and thinking back to my trips now, like it absolutely had that effect on me, where we would be in these fancy places and I would look at some of the bottles on the bar and I'm like, let's just get one thing and let's get out of here. Like, this just looks weird. And then in places that I didn't have a sight line to the bar, I drank more at.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I'm like really starting to take stock in it and think about it, that was 100% the case. I mean, and again, like they're like big gaudy stickers that go on these bottles, and I think that's the point, right? To be like, yes, we're buying from the state liquor store and stuff like that. But from the aesthetic point of view, like it just looks, it looks like you just went down to your corner liquor store, picked up a bottle and it was on sale and had a big on sale sticker on it,
Right.
So, I think if you can start dismantling these rules and stuff and these, and then honestly, the kind of ridiculous rules. I mean, again, I think at the heart of it, it makes sense. And I'm also not one to want to be on Walmart's side on this, but it also does prevent a lot of people across the United States from getting cool stuff. If you live in a state ran, state like it, or the control states, like most of the time you don't have as much access to some of the better spirits that are available in the US.
Not even that. It's man, my best friend growing up, he spent some time. What's the best way to lead into this story? So we're East Coast kids. His folks, the town that we lived in was maybe 30 minutes from the Pennsylvania border in New Jersey. And when I would go visit him when he was living in Philadelphia, we would have to stop on the way back from visiting his folks, who are like, they're like my surrogate parents. I mean, they're like, we've been best friends since we were one, and so his parents had been there for me through thick and thin, through everything. Like his dad just came out of a heart surgery this last week, which is just mind blowing. He's, 70 something years old and just received a brand new heart, essentially, that's 20 years younger than him, which is just incredible. And unheard of. So, by knocking on wood that everything still goes amazingly well, and he's home and he's great. But everybody in Pennsylvania drives to another state in order to buy booze. It's just, or they drive to Canada, or, they go somewhere else because buying booze in Pennsylvania is such a pain in the ass and it costs so much. So much so that Ohio had to close its border down between Pennsylvania and Ohio during shelter in place because of the amount of people who crossed the border to go to Ohio to buy booze.
Yeah.
So you had to show your ID to prove that you were an Ohio resident in order to buy booze in Ohio, because so many people go across the state line to do it. So this isn't a new thing. It's like, it's culturally ingrained in some of these states,
right? Right. Which, I mean, if you look at it even from a political side, well, you have all that money's leaving your state to go buy booze. Like, how is that a win?
That's a good point.
As a politician, like you're losing money by having some of these restrictions put into
Well, what
place.
I oftentimes find very ironic is that usually these restrictions are coming from anti-big government conservatives, right? Because they want those restrictions on state spending for booze because it looks morally bad or something. But it's like this doesn't look good, but it's become so ingrained in societally. I don't know. I'm really fascinated to see where this court case goes.
Yeah, I do think it's like an underrated or something that we don't consider too often because we were in it every single day. But there's a lot of people who really still think that drinking is the worst thing in the world, And so, like, to us, these things don't make sense on a lot of levels. But yeah, for a lot of those people, they're just kind of like, no, this is the right thing to do. So, to restrict this stuff and to make it harder and all that because they fully believe that alcohol is still the devil.
I mean, that's fine. Call me a Satanist, I guess. That's, it's my red wine does look an awful lot like blood. And it's really tasty.
It's into all kinds of weird stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's true. We could make an entire different podcast based on weird stuff that we like.
Oh boy. Well, so those are our stories for the week. Did you have?
How did we transfer from talking about the Supreme Court to Satanism? I'm sure somebody can show me a good YouTube video pretty soon saying how that makes sense. But
I think it's just like our normal conversation patterns that. I think this was, since the very beginning, the goal of this podcast was just to share our natural selves in our natural habitat. And we've just gotten to the point where we're so used to it now. And like, there's things that I've actually gotten to the point where will be reached out to and they'll be asked a question about the podcast. And I have completely forgotten what we talked about, because we do talk a lot outside of the podcast as well. So when people reach out to me, and fortunately I've been able to answer questions because they're specific enough that I'm like, oh, this is how I feel about something. So I know I can answer that question.
Do you think that that's like how Star Trek actors feel about Trekkies asking them questions about an episode that they were on?
No, because I think there's a huge disconnect between actors and the source material and stuff like that. I think like these, there's not a disconnect. It's like we just talk about this stuff so much, and there's so many things that don't make it onto this medium that we talk about. Right?
Yeah, that's fair. And also, to be fair, you and I change our mind pretty often based on new facts that we learn.
Well, we're pragmatic for the most part.
Yeah.
So I do think I think that's a positive, but there is a lot that I just like forget that that's a thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that. Okay. Like cool.
now I have to die by that.
yeah. Now it's out in the ether, and
that's fine. I'm down with dying by me drinking blood. It's okay.
Well, there you go. There it is. Okay, so and part of our new recurring segment, did you find anybody on social media this week, or do you want to recommend anybody on social media this week for people to follow?
Yeah, and I'm actually I know that we're early into this, but I'm already throwing it for a loop, and I'm because that's just what I do. And you actually recommended this to me, so it's not social media, but on Spotify.
Are you into the playlist?
The playlists.
Oh, okay.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. The there is a tiki bar in Florida. Is it in Miami?
It's in Miami. Yep.
It's in Miami. And Drew, when he came back, he was just raving about their playlists. And being at a store, you know, I never want to subject myself and or people who I am around all the time with the same fucking music all the time, because that's just emotional abuse. But Esotico in Miami, most amazing playlists. I love their goddamn playlists. So on Spotify, I don't know if they're on any other, if they use any other platforms, but definitely on Spotify, Esotico, Esotico. My personal favorites are probably the disco mixtape and the 90s playlist are two of my favorites that I listen to almost all the time. They've got a reggae mixtape that I'm into as well. But yeah, that's my recommendation. I strongly stand by that.
I mean, it is a really great playlist, and you know, that's a bar that I look forward to returning to one day. There's just so many great people that are involved with it as well. And yeah, if you guys enjoy any of that kind of music, you should definitely do it. This isn't a new follow for me, but just someone who I have felt over the past few years has always been such a strong voice for the industry, and just seems to have their finger on the pulse better than most. And so it's going to be Bobby Hugel. And so it's BOBBY_HEUGEL. And he owns a few places, but probably most well known is for like Anvil in Houston. So he's always sharing really good stuff. He's been an advocate of getting more support for restaurants and bars over the past few months, and now them having to deal with the mask and different ways to approach that. He put out this really cool signage that he is letting people in his county just download for free and be like, hey, just put this on your door. And what I like about it is, so it says this, and again, this is a PDF that you can download. Masks required upon entry and when not seated per Harris County regulations. Thank you for complying with this policy at all times, thereby maximizing safety and not making our staff's job harder than it already are. So it's like, that's just great. It's direct. And I just really hope that, people can, he'll continue to add to the discussion and be a positive influence in the industry, which I know he will, but it's just, go follow him. He only has 15,000 followers.
Yeah, Bobby is first of all, he is prolific. He is a trendsetter. He is young. He's 2 years younger than me, which pisses me off because he owns like 13 locations, and they are that. Each like he owns coffee shops, he owns Anvil, he owns Pastry War, a lot of places in Texas, and so not just from a business standpoint does his voice carry a lot of weight, but also culturally within the booze industry, his voice carries a lot of weight because he speaks from experience and he speaks from a place of education. And from a place that comes from supporting the people who work for him and not just pontificating, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bobby's been a huge advocate for the industry pretty much since I've known him. And before being an advocate for the industry that I was aware of, he was an advocate for agave spirits, well before they were even close to being popular. So it's, he's someone that I definitely look to. I know he ruffles a lot of feathers, especially lately when he asks tough questions about, why aren't brands spending money in this way or that way. But he definitely drives a conversation. And I think that can irritate some people. but it's something that I definitely admire, and it's something that I hope that you and I can attain in the coming years.
I do have aspirations to, to create the wake that he does. He for sure. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how influential he is. So definitely give him a follow, and then jump on Spotify and follow the Esotico stuff. It's really, really fucking great.
Agreed.
So that's all I got for you, man.
Well, good. I was done talking to you anyway.
Fair enough. All right. Cheers, buddy.
All right, homie. Take care. The Good Bottle Podcast is a product of Fluid Concepts. Episodes are produced, edited, and uploaded by Christopher Sinclair. Theme music comes to us by two very talented brothers, Leon and Chase Moore. Interact and follow us on social media at The Good Bottle Podcast.